Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast. This is Draft Night 2021. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Is this our first ever show doing it live? In like 300 and whatever episodes? Is the first one you've ever done live?
We have done, I believe, one other episode, possibly. We've done a few, but this is the first one. I mean, last time we tried to do a live episode, we know what happened with our Zoom link that we shared out.
Yeah, we don't need to revisit that. But
So
it's a worthy night for a live episode, Carl.
Absolutely, and I thank you to the fine folks at Green Room for putting together such a great product for us to be able to use tonight. So we're excited to be here. So much has happened this week. I'm glad that we waited. We had the expansion draft and then all the trades today. If you were a defenseman in the NHL, you were probably traded today.
Absolutely. For an amount that you probably were not worth.
Yeah, or a shockingly small amount. There's no way to know. Maybe they paid to get rid of you. NHL GMs were all over the map today. But let's go back to Wednesday and the expansion draft. We're waiting here. The NHL draft broadcast has started, so as the picks start rolling in, we'll talk about that. But let's go back to Wednesday with the expansion draft. What was something that stood out to you from that?
How boring the show was. That was I think I watched a total of 8 picks before I turned off the TV. I couldn't sit through it. Especially because every single pick leaked earlier in the day. So I think I sent you the link earlier in the day. I said, "Why are we broadcasting an expansion draft? We know what the team is." Yeah.
And every single one of those leaks was correct.
There wasn't a single one that was wrong.
No mistakes were made. And so we sat through it just to see Brandon Tanev show up. We saw Jordan Eberle show up. Just 6 guys from the team. Some mispronunciations of names thanks to Sean Kemp.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't even have trades like they did with the Vegas one. And even if they had, they weren't going to announce them until the day after. What are you doing, NHL?
They really dropped the ball on the excitement level with this one, I find. What was more exciting than the expansion draft? Learning about the protection lists. That had more drama attached to it than the actual expansion draft picks.
Absolutely. A ton more, right? We got it, and I know I did. I'm sure several of our listeners did, but you went and you made your team and you made it happen and you saw, okay, well, here's what I could do. Here's some choices. And even that, I mean, that had less leaks than the expansion.
It's so true.
Draft.
I know. Yeah, it's true. I mean, they've got a hard job. How do you make something like that exciting? It worked last time because they did it at the NHL awards, right? Not that the NHL awards are exciting, but they at least got to roll it into an existing event. Whereas this one is just, if you're there, I guess it's kind of cool. But to watch it on TV, I was very underwhelmed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure for those fans, I mean, you have a team now, right? Seattle, you're getting your team, you're going to see some of those players, you're celebrating it. Ton of fun for the fans who are there. And I'm sure, Seattle hockey fans had a great time with it. But the other 31 teams in the league? Go ahead.
Kind of doesn't matter, right? Not at that point of the process. But let's talk about the team that they drafted and some of the pieces that they not only drafted but locked in for a longer period of time. What were some of your biggest surprises, A, on the protection side and B, on the selection side?
I think when we knew that a number of big priced people would be made available, right? Price and Tarasenko, and none of that really surprised me. I think what surprised me the most about the draft was how few of those players were picked. Seattle really valued their cap space in the same way that Vegas did, right? They learned, much like teams learned from their mistakes of not paying Seattle to not take their players. Seattle learned cap space is going to be huge, especially in a flat cap time. And so that surprised me a little bit. I thought that some of those bigger name guys would go, but they didn't.
I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong and I just don't remember, I feel like names like Carey Price and like PK Subban and like Vladimir Tarasenko were not available to the Golden Knights. And that was due to all these side deals and trades and stuff. And I understand a lot of teams didn't want to go that route because so many of them got robbed by the Golden Knights, 4 years ago or however long it was. But it's weird to me, like, I look at this roster, and similar to Vegas, I'm kind of underwhelmed by it. Like, it doesn't look that exciting to me. But to me, the key difference is Seattle had like these big name, marketable franchise players available to them, and they opted not to take them.
Yeah, it would have been interesting. Like, I know that Carey Price deal is not great, but when you have a blank slate, it's much less bad of a deal. You could fit that on Tarasenko, and I know we talked about it just last episode about how there was, very good potential for him to bounce back and be the Tarasenko of old. So it did surprise me, but
that's actually the one I would have taken.
Of those guys, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I liked a lot of I liked them getting, I'm not sure that I would have used a pick on it, but we saw a lot of them, right? Like 4 guys were picked and then signed to deals. Ekman-Larsson, Chris Drager, Jamie Oleksiak. I liked those picks. I liked Drager for them. They're going to be strong in net and really strong on the blue line. Not the Oleksiak deal, I think, was a little much, but hey, we'll get to how bad defenseman deals were this week. So who even knows how to value defensemen at this point in time?
Do you think that the salary cap is too much of a focus here when building a net new team like this? Like, I know it's important and it's a flat cap, but equally important to me is the marketability of your team and bringing in some of these big names. I just think they overthought it a little bit on the salary cap side. Like, they could have taken one of those guys and worked around it. I don't know. That's just me.
I definitely agree, because you need, what are you then going to go spend that money on? And there's not a big draw, big ticket guy that you even can know with certainty that you're going to get in free agency. And a lot of guys are, getting snatched up. We saw, Seth Jones, a big ticket that maybe they were in on, probably not, but you saw some of those guys already gone. So yeah, absolutely. I fully expected them to use that a little bit more. And maybe, I know people use the word like weaponize, but like use it as a way, right? Like, hey, we'll take your big guys, but like, if you don't want us to, pay us not to. Like, which is what Vegas did.
Yeah, exactly. So and then everyone was saying, well, the trades are going to come the next day when the roster freezes lift, and they really didn't, at least for Seattle. Like, they made that deal with Calgary, but they've been pretty quiet.
They've been very quiet, yeah. Not a ton going on in that regard, but I mean, after the fact, Seattle's already made one trade, right? Moving Tyler Pitlick to the Flames, but really starting with your Red Wings, yesterday, they started getting the trade wheels a-going. Alex, have you figured out how to say his name yet?
Hold on, I have to look at it. Nedeljkovic.
I think that's pretty close. That's good.
Something like that. I practiced it yesterday.
I just imagine you in the same state that you are in this Spotify Green Room profile picture got there. Just sitting there trying to say Alex Nedeljkovic. And you did a good job.
Thank you.
So him to the Red Wings for a 3rd-round pick and Jonathan Bernier. You got to like that deal.
Highway robbery. This is Stevie just Stevieing all over the league. Like, what are the Hurricanes thinking? I don't know how Yzerman sells that deal to them. Like, is this just the kind of thing he's like, let's ask for a lot and then we'll negotiate and meet them in the middle. And they just said yes, and he was like, oh, okay.
just start big, because I mean he was restricted. You got him signed immediately to a very reasonable contract.
Yeah, and apparently what the Hurricanes didn't want to sign him for was 3 years at $3.5 million per year. So he took one less year and $500,000 less in Detroit. I don't know how Yzerman made all of this happen, but the Hurricanes look very bad through all of this.
Yeah, I mean, a great deal for the Red Wings. Nedeljkovic, they've made questionable choices with their handling of him since he was still in the AHL, but he won the Calder Trophy with them, won Goalie of the Year for them in the AHL, and now just give up on him after 1 year in the NHL. Not a good idea.
Was he not a Calder Trophy finalist?
Yes, he absolutely was.
I don't know how you let that walk away for a veteran goalie who's a pending UFA and a 3rd-round pick. Oof.
Yeah,
and I'm
apparently
very happy
now,
about it.
Apparently their game plan and their approach to goaltending for this year is literally going to be former Red Wing goalies, because they are trying to sign both Bernier and Peter Mrazek.
Yeah. And if they bring Reimer back, they'll get the old Reimer-Bernier tandem back together from the Toronto days.
Which is, I think, what everyone's really clamoring for.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know, the Hurricanes, as exciting as they've been and as good as they've been, this whole goaltending situation is, in my eyes, very scary for them. Because even Mrazek said, yeah, I'm open to signing with the Hurricanes, but I'm going to test the market too. So they're going to need to figure something out fast on the goaltending front if they want to, continue to be competitive going into next season.
Absolutely. Well, and you've also got to take care of and think about Dougie Hamilton, right? Another person that they literally said, test the market, go ahead, and then we'll try to match you. Well, we saw what happened when they tried to match someone already, and he left. And they weren't willing to pay that amount. So now you're going to have those goaltenders without Dougie Hamilton in front of them. Not looking good.
Yikes.
Yikes. I don't expect him to be back. Do you?
No. No, I don't.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the day of trades that was today. Actually, no. Gostisbehere was yesterday as well. We got Shayne Gostisbehere went to Arizona in exchange for future considerations. The Flyers also gave a 2nd-round pick with him. So Gostisbehere off, clearly, just a situation where they wanted to cut the cost and they'd rather give up a 2nd-rounder than have him.
Yeah, so that was, I guess, Arizona's price to take on his contract. Not that I even think this is like a slog for Arizona to take on. I think why was I going to say Jay Boomeister? Shayne Gostisbehere, I think he could still bring value on the ice. Absolutely. I think he'll still be a good defenseman for them. So it's not a bad pickup for them. And, it shouldn't have been surprising to see Arizona making moves like this. And I thought about it today after the OEL deal that we'll talk about in a bit. But I keep forgetting they had to forfeit all those picks because they're cheaters.
Right, exactly. Last year, losing the first round pick. And also, do we have a draft pick coming in? We might have a draft pick coming in.
I mean, I see Gary standing awkwardly at the podium. Can they not loosen this guy up a little bit before the show?
Like, are you thinking? Like, all-star game draft level loose, or a little less?
No, that level loose. Like, let's get this guy a bit of a neck and shoulder massage and a glass of wine before he jumps. He looks like he slept poorly on his neck last night, and the smallest little turn of his head shoots pain down the side of his back.
He has not moved from the neck down since they started showing him.
Right?
Is it possible?
He has a sore back?
Is it possible that he is wearing a green screen suit, sitting at his kitchen table, and the only thing that can move right now is his head because everything else is green screen?
It is very possible. And you know what, Carl? I would even say it's probable that this is where the NHL would spend its high-tech budget versus instead of putting it into analytics on the ice.
Yeah, we got. What are we going to do with our effects budget? I don't know. Maybe green screen Gary so he doesn't have to leave his house? Perfect.
It's probably all driven by Gary. He just wants the coolest green screen. He's like, okay, give me the Thanos face now.
I could just imagine it's going to switch halfway through. I don't know where he's going to be, but it's going to be great.
You know what would be great is every GM who makes the pick, it's just that body, and the heads just change.
They just then Photoshop him with his arm around the GM, and they put him into each draft pick's living room because that's how we get to see this draft now. It's going to be great.
It's just hologram Gary Bettman everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. While we wait for Gary's monologue to finish, we have there you go. Sabres are on the clock. We got 5 minutes left for them to make this pick, and so in about 10 minutes we'll have our first pick.
Oh my God!
But Gostisbehere only has 2 years left, right? This year and next year, and then his deal's done. That seems like a pretty steep price to pay for 1 year or 2 years of getting out of a deal.
They obviously wanted him gone. I mean, they wanted him gone last year, right? They sent him down through the waiver wire. Shocking that nobody picked him up, but his time with this team was coming to an end. And we know now, because we waited to do this episode, that the Flyers had other things in mind or other plans for their blue line. So,
I guess
they brought in Ryan Ellis.
I was going to say, that was the one. We did skip over the Ellis deal as well. So they brought him in first.
The protection list. So they brought in Ryan Ellis. And then today they bring in, he's not even listed on Cap Friendly yet, Rasmus Ristolainen.
Yeah. So, but he's only got a 1 year deal. So and then is unrestricted after that. So if this was all just a way to get Ristolainen, you're paying him an extra $900,000. You've paid a second, and I don't think there's that big of a difference between Ristolainen and Gostisbehere.
I don't think so either. If you put both in front of me and said pick one, I honestly don't. I'd probably flip a coin.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure why that makes sense for the Flyers. I don't really understand what their strategy is here, because the other crazy thing is they gave up a first round pick for Ristolainen.
So they've now given up a second to get rid of Gostisbehere, and then the 14th overall pick today for Ristolainen.
I don't get it. So we are going to get the first overall pick right now.
We are.
Kevin Adams, the former VP of Business Affairs of the Buffalo Sabres, looks like he just named the name.
They're excited.
I don't recognize these people, Carl, so I don't know who he named. Owen
like
Power.
We've got Owen Power, which is what we expected.
Well, this is a little better than being in people's living rooms.
Him with his, all of his friends and family outside in the backyard.
Yeah, his grandma. Look at his grandma. She's so cute.
She maybe knows what's going on right now. But
yeah, maybe.
With this, the Sabres have now taken first overall 2 defensemen, right? We had Rasmus Dahlin, now Owen Power. The Jack Eichel trade that seems to be coming hasn't happened yet. They traded another defenseman today. So it seemed like once the Ristolainen trade happened, I know that there was some talk that they maybe wouldn't go defenseman, but moving one out today made it seem like that was their approach.
Yeah, I think that's when it became pretty clear that Mr. Owen Power here was going first overall.
So with defensemen, we see, even with Dahlin, right? Really good player, but take some time to really be able to become that top level player. And with the Sabres really kind of moving closer and closer into, win now approach, because this rebuild's gone on forever. Would you have gone elsewhere, or do you think Power was the right choice?
Honestly, in this year's draft, with how, up in the air a lot of it is, I would have just gone with the clear number 1 best player available. I think they made the right move by drafting Owen Power.
I think so too. And I mean, now this is where it's going to get interesting, because we have essentially this year a consensus, there was a consensus number 1 with Power, and then a consensus top 9. And everyone from 2 to 9, depending on where you're looking, is going to change dramatically.
Yeah.
And even we saw just this afternoon the 9th overall pick. So to sneak up into that top 9, Arizona Coyotes trading Oliver Ekman-Larsson to the Vancouver Canucks with Connor Garland, getting back a first this year, a second next year, and the salary dump of salary dumps, Antoine Roussel, Jay Beagle, and Louis Eriksson.
Yeah, I'm curious to know what you make of this one. I mean, I don't know I don't watch the Coyotes that much, so I don't know much about Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I kind of just know that he's this stable presence on their back end, and he's a very good defenseman. I think the Coyotes had to do this because they needed to get some high picks in this year's draft. So they didn't really have a choice, and I think they did okay. Just from the picks perspective, I think it's kind of worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, getting a first and a second for him, they retained $900,000, so essentially nothing on this deal. The 3 players they got back, all of their contracts are going to be ending this season. As much as they're all overpaid, their deals will be ending this year. So you add that with the Andrew Ladd pick that they made, the trade that they made leading up to the draft.
Oh, yeah.
And the Arizona Coyotes continue to make use of the fact that they have cap space for days.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they're aware of their reputation as the, landfill of the National Hockey League? This is just where teams send garbage contracts that nobody wants anymore. Because if they are, they're really leaning into it.
And they have to. They have to know how the rest of the league sees them, because they keep doing it. They know what they are. They're like, look, everyone's going to call us. We're going to see it. There we go. Beniers to the Kraken. Before we talk about the pick, what do you think about, we saw for the first time the Kraken jerseys at the expansion draft, and now we've seen them here. Looking good.
They're gorgeous jerseys. I love them. I love the colors. I love the logo. The jerseys themselves I find are very minimalist and simple, which I quite like. They just really let the logo shine.
Yeah, for sure. I like the Beniers pick for Seattle. Gives them, they have zero prospects essentially, so they need someone, and being able to, I hate picking, you want to pick best available, but Beniers playing that center position somewhere that gives them that flexibility. Even if he doesn't work out there, they can move him to the wing. But I would expect, he's played center at high level, World Junior, etc. I expect him to be able to stay there.
Yeah, and he's also, he's one of the only centers in the top 10, and he's the only center in the top 5. So, if you need that center talent, you're aiming for that number 1 center, then he's all you got there. Yeah,
so there you go. Beniers off to Seattle. And now we got Anaheim on the clock. But to go back to Arizona, I like this trade for them in the fact that it does get them that draft capital back. It gets them those picks back. But it also, just continually, it just feels like they're a team that is continually in that rebuild. That Oliver Ekman-Larsson was that guy that hey, we got him signed, we got him extended. We have someone who wants to be with this organization long term, and now he's gone.
It's got to be tough being a fan because it feels nonstop. Every year, you're taking on bad contracts for high picks. And at some point, they got to come out of it.
And none of them really become much, right? There's not a ton. Obviously, they're not making the playoffs. They're not continuing there. And they've just kind of had 2 waves as the cheating scandal came out, and they had to clean front office there. And then, before that with the previous GM, whose name's escaping me right now.
John Chayka.
Chayka, thank you. With all of that, it just seems like wave after wave of uncertainty and unknowns, and they deserve better for the fans down there.
Yeah, I agree. They got to break out of this this controversy. It's like every year there's another controversy with this team. They got to just chill out a little bit, play some hockey.
Absolutely. I think after this last couple seasons, we could all use just a little bit of chilling out and just play some hockey. So,
yes.
So we got Anaheim up next. What trades have we not? Buchnevich. Pavel Buchnevich from the New York Rangers off to the St. Louis Blues in exchange for Sammy Blaze and a 2nd round pick.
I think I like this deal for the Blues.
I love this deal for the Blues. I don't understand. Much like the Coyotes had cleaned house in a front office sense, the New York Rangers literally, they had that, firing that wasn't based on the controversy around, the Capitals and complaining about the lack of suspension for Tom Wilson and all that. But they did clean house immediately after. And this is the first move they've made. And I know we got Jeff Gorton sitting here. I'd rather have him and that crew back than him sitting on the broadcast tonight.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was just thinking as I was watching him talk, if they're going to ask him to comment on the Rangers pick. Right? Because it's probably still something he's had input on.
Oh, for sure.
As a member of that organization.
Yeah, he knew where they were going with it.
So it would be interesting to hear his commentary on it. But the numbers that Buchnevich is putting up, they're not like, I don't know. He's not going to replace Tarasenko in that organization, but for what they had to give up to get this kind of production, it's worth it for the Blues.
Well, I mean, it's only a second-round pick, and they've got a good, young, talented player that can be with them for some term.
Yeah,
an amazing pickup. It's a known quantity. Second-round pick is certainly iffy at best to be, certainly a top-level player, but even, a solid NHLer. And they got a solid NHLer in that trade.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great deal for them.
Which they needed, because I think in them losing Vince Dunn, they lost. That's probably the best pick for Seattle in that expansion. I think that was a huge loss for them. So to be able to turn around and win this trade is a big help for the Blues organization.
Yeah, and it's not even just losing Dunn. Like, this team's kind of been through the ringer the last, few months. They were swept by the Avalanche.
That was inevitable, though.
They barely even made it into the playoffs. Then they get swept, and then all this Tarasenko stuff happens. They can't trade him. They lose Dunn. So
they literally can't even give Tarasenko away. They try.
They can't. They tried giving him away. They can't. Please take him for nothing. So it's nice for them to get a little bit of a win here.
Did you see that Anaheim Ducks draft room that they've got set up there at the arena?
Yeah. It looks like an actual draft stage.
I'm not sure why they have every single team there. It's just you. You can be as self-centered as you want.
Can you imagine the prep that goes into preparing that draft space? They had to get arena technicians involved in that.
Yeah. Hey, can you go and the intern that had to go buy a jersey from every team in the league? Can we just borrow them? No, they won't lend them to us for some reason. It's super weird.
Okay, they have LED screens behind them.
Yeah. They're. I mean,
so
what
much
else?
Work.
What else are LED screens doing these days, though, other than just being set up in empty arenas? Yeah.
Oh, our first living room shot. Mason McTavish. Wow.
That's a little higher than I understood that he'd be going.
Higher than I think anyone had him going. I mean, yeah. I've got one ranking here that has him at 9.
Yeah. So big. I mean, great for him. The Ducks obviously wanted him. They made the pick there. But there you go. Center Mason McTavish going to the Ducks.
Surprising how high he went, but we'll see. We got how many more picks now? 1, 2 more picks, and then my Red Wings are up.
All right. Well, let's talk while we wait for your Red Wings. Let's talk about the big deal of the day, and that is a little brother reunion. So Seth Jones goes to Columbus, and there was jokes. I mean, I thought it was a joke when they traded Caleb Jones in the Duncan Keith trade. They were like, and maybe that'll help them convince Seth Jones to go to Chicago. Lo and behold, Seth Jones is now a member of the Chicago Blackhawks with his brother. And
yeah,
weird.
I hate the Blackhawks, dude. I just hate this organization. How do they keep doing this? How do the Blackhawks of all the teams go out and get Seth Jones?
And why? Why? I don't get the fit for them as a team. I don't understand why this is what their thought was, that we're going to go out and get. I mean, Seth Jones is great, but that's not where they're at in their trajectory.
Well, sure they are. You don't think so? Where are they? I think these are the kinds of players that they need to go get to make sure that they don't bottom out.
Wait, have they not already bottomed out? That's
they
kind
were
of my
certainly
thought,
heading
right?
that way, but I don't think they've really bottomed out. No.
Because to me, I look at them as a team that they missed the playoffs this past year. They're going to be put back into an incredibly difficult division, and they're moving draft picks for future pieces. They've got, I mean, Seth Jones is good. Don't get me wrong on that. But to be moving assets like this when there's bigger holes in this team, like, sure, you got Seth Jones and you're going to need defensemen because you got nobody behind him.
Yeah, and they had to backfill for Duncan Keith.
So it's just
they improved upon him, but in backfilling him.
Yes, definitely. I mean, this isn't a 1-for-1 like clean swap, right?
Yeah.
But
you know what though? I just pulled up their roster page. I think I might change my stance on them bottoming out, because when you've got the goalie tandem that they do, I feel like there's not really any choice. Everything's just gonna bottom out.
Exactly. Like,
it's not good.
And clearly the Hurricanes did not shop Nedeljkovic in the same way that they should have, but like, this is the team that should have gone out and paid a 3rd-round pick for Nedeljkovic.
Absolutely, yeah.
So,
yikes. Well, I mean, I think Seth Jones helps them not bottom out.
I mean, it slows that down, for sure.
It slows it down.
So Seth Jones has 1 year left on his deal, and then signed an 8-year, $9.5 million per contract. That's some big money.
That's big money, yeah. That's a lot of money for Seth Jones.
And, I mean, if any defenseman on the market is worth it, it's him and it's Dougie Hamilton, right? Dougie Hamilton's unrestricted, so he doesn't need to be traded to make that happen, but definitely, if anyone should be paid that, it is. But it's ironic to me that on the day where, like, Oliver Ekman-Larsson is, given up on by the Coyotes and given away after being, I mean, not given away, but like sold at a loss by the Coyotes, and you've got Shayne Gostisbehere being paid to be given away, and then you've got another team signing up for 9 more years of Seth Jones. It's like, maybe that's not the way.
I mean, I don't love the term on it. The dollar amount, we've talked about this before, that you pay the big bucks to get them in their prime, and you know that you're going to have a few years on the back end where they're not going to be worth it. But this team, like, they're in a position from a cap perspective where they can afford this, so why not? Like, why not? They have $30 million in cap space going into next year. They've obviously put their stake in the ground here and said, this is the guy that we're going to build around.
Yeah. Hey,
right,
but like,
rightly or wrongly, I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely have, because they got next year is the last year of the Kane and Taves deals, and I believe also Brent Seabrook's contract is still there, but he will be on injured reserve most likely. He'll be there for good. So that's an interesting way. There you go. The Devils pairing up the Hughes brothers. Luke Hughes going to the Devils at number 4.
They did it.
So this is our second. I mean, Jack Hughes is not a defenseman, but this is our second defenseman brother joining a brother of the day.
Oh my God, look how excited these guys are.
I've never.
It's kind of cute, but it's like way too intense. Like, dude, don't hurt him.
Can they channel a little bit of that energy into Gary Bettman? Like, just a bit.
Gary Bettman had to turn his head to look at that video screen, and he pulled another muscle.
They have to entirely reset the green screen now. Good pick for the Devils, though.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly filling out their roster up and down the lineup, with young, unproven talent, but it's a blueprint, I think.
Yeah, I would say Luke Hughes, I think, has a pretty good chance of being a good NHLer, though.
For sure, but when? Like, is he going to jump onto the roster next year, or is this like 3 years down the line they expect to be competitive?
I think you can have him take a couple more years to be ready, and you're okay with that. I think with this team and the way that they're building and growing and developing, I would expect them to get a little bit better this coming season. And even if it's two years down the road, he makes it and starts to grow. That's great.
Agreed.
I mean, Quinn Hughes, his brother, and I know that that's not the best way to look at it, but like they do play a similar style of play, and Quinn Hughes had a very good rookie season.
Yep, absolutely. Have both Jack and Quinn, they both played their draft year, right? Or after their draft year?
I think Quinn was another year after his draft.
He was a year after? Okay.
I believe so, because I think him and Cale Makar were not the same age, but I could be mistaken.
Man, this guy looks like such a child.
He is literally 17 years old. So
yeah, watching the draft makes me feel so old.
Just because these guys are half our age, it's fine. Probably.
Yeah, it's fine. Our shot's not over yet, right, Carl? The dream's not dead.
No. I would just send every scout in the NHL that profile picture you got there. And I think they'd probably come a-calling.
Oh, yeah, probably, right? Because everyone's teams are just so filled with skill and talent right now that they need that intimidation behind the bench. And I think me and my toothpick can bring that.
I think, when you talk about veteran presence, that's what you got going on there.
Yeah, I could teach them a lot of life experience.
Yeah. All right, so Columbus is on the clock right now, and for them, I mean, we just talked about them trading Seth Jones. They got back. They're picking 5th with their own pick. They also got back in this year's draft Chicago's number 12 overall. And then they sent back to Chicago Tampa's 32nd pick. So that was the one that they got in the David Savard weird trade that happened via the Red Wings. So Blue Jackets have 2 very high picks.
But they have 3 picks total tonight, don't they?
Because they also have the Leafs pick from Nick Foligno.
For Nick Foligno, yeah.
So, I mean, very busy night for the Blue Jackets, and exactly what they need for this rebuild that they're doing.
Yeah, it's they did a really good job of making sure they're picking frequently and picking high, especially in this draft because it's such. I shouldn't say crapshoot. I don't know how much scouting they've done, but for us, from a fan's perspective, like there's really not that much out there about a lot of these players. The deeper you go into the draft, so this is if you're gonna load up, this is the time to do it. Yeah,
you've got to make your picks now so that you can have, especially high, because you do have more footage of those guys, right? So many scouts were not able to travel to see these teams and to be a part of that. So, super important that they were able to get those picks done.
Yeah. Is that Rick Nash in the background there?
We do have a Rick Nash sighting in Columbus.
I didn't know he was working with the team.
I didn't either.
It's like a player ambassador.
I guess so, yeah. I mean, Columbus clearly showed up tonight. They also have a real stage. So
I love their podium. Columbus Blue Jackets, blue on gold.
and apparently the longest selection speech ever.
Oh my god. Like, what is he talking about? Now, what is he throwing to someone else now?
Yeah. Rick Nash strongly regrets being there.
Rick Nash has got a burger waiting for him at his table. He's like, my fries are getting cold.
Yeah. Can we wrap this up real quick? I got places to be. So, I mean, I think the Jackets are obviously primed for a great night, and I really think that they're going to come out of this one nicely. With your Red Wings up next, since Columbus is apparently never going to make this pick, what are you wanting for your Red Wings at 6? With what we've seen going now, is there someone you want or a couple?
There's so much choice. I would still like them. Oh, Columbus's pick is in Kent Johnson.
Which, like, camera placement, maybe not the best.
So true.
Like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's a marketing deal for him, but and another guy that maybe went a little bit higher than expected.
Yeah, but he was the third center that was projected to go in the top 10, along with Mason McTavish and Matthew Beniers. So there's no more centers projected to go that high. So it'll be interesting to see now what Detroit does, because I would have liked for them to take a center. Who's left on the board here? William Eklund, he's a left winger. Brandt Clark is a defenseman. I think that's kind of where I'm leaning for Detroit. But Stevie always goes off the board.
Like, how off the board are we talking? Will the Red Wings trade this pick?
I don't think they'll trade the pick. My off-the-board pick for Detroit is the goalie, Wallstead.
Well, and he's one that if you want him, just you take him where you are, because it's so rare that there's a goalie that's worth taking that high, and if he does turn out to be worth that pick, you've made a great choice.
So I have a bet going on right now with somebody. I'll tell you who it is later, but they set the over-under for Detroit picking goalies in this draft at 2.5. Okay?
Really?
I took the under, and they took the over. I think Detroit's going to pick 4 goalies in this draft.
Really? So 4 goalies. And is this because they have a fair amount? They have 11 picks. Is that correct in the draft this year?
They have 10.
10.
Now,
okay.
I believe.
All right, because they just gave up a third. So yeah. Okay.
So, like, spending almost half of your picks on goalies, it seems crazy to me.
And certainly even Wallstad very likely would not be playing on this team this year.
No. But Detroit's goalie pipeline is it's bare. There's nothing there.
Yeah. Like, so in taking him, you've got at least that, and then you take that pressure off of anyone below him, right?
Yeah, totally. And it to me, it makes sense because it fills a need that Detroit very much has and is going to have. I think it's less likely now that they made that trade for Nedeljkovic.
I think the more you say his name, the worse it's getting.
I think so too, because I'm thinking about it more. So I don't know. You just can't predict it with Stevie. He's going to go off the board, I think, and I love it.
All right. Well, I do. As we are getting deeper into this, I mean, we're almost at the Wings pick, and the podcast version of this, I know we were going to try to take it to an hour, so we'll at least wait till the Red Wings get their pick in. But to those that have joined us for the show today, thank you very much for joining us live. And as we kind of wrap up, if you have any questions, kind of put it to the room. Because spoilers, Nick, my discussion, my version of the chat, I can finally see it. So,
it's working. That's great.
So we've got that happening. Anything that we've missed from this last week? I mean, there has been so much news, really like a fire hose of stuff happening this week. Is there anything that you can think of right now that we've maybe missed or skipped over?
Oh, not off the top of my head. Taylor Hall to Boston.
Oh, let's talk about the signings, because we have had now a few number of them, but Taylor Hall, 4 years, $6 million per in Boston. Great signing.
Right?
Boston.
I think so too. That's a great deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's short enough that it's not going to be a problem long term. The dollar amount is great. It's literally less than, obviously it would likely be less than he got on that 1 year deal with Buffalo last year, but a great signing for them.
Yeah, and I think he's at a point now too where he's like, he wants to make a go of it and play on a good, strong team, and go deep into the playoffs, because he's never really had that in his career.
Yeah, to be able to be a part of that team and be a part of just making it happen.
Yeah, so he's made some good money in his career. He'll make some good money on this contract, and I think he wants to try and win now. He's a good fit on the team, though. Like I watched a little bit of their playoffs, and he was definitely a standout for them.
Yes, for sure. And like he really made that second line go. Like that Krejci line became a real threat as soon as he was there. They became much less of a one-line team, and to be able to continue that forward, where you've got the Pasta, Marchand, Bergeron line, and then Taylor Hall on that second shot. Love that for him. Yeah,
it was great. So all around, it's a good deal. I think for Taylor Hall, it's a good deal for the Bruins. I'd rather that deal than 8 years of Seth Jones at 9.5.
What about 8 years of Zach Hyman at 5?
Oh, the Zach Hyman saga. I gotta talk quietly about this one. We have an unhappy person in our household right now.
All right, so Zach Hyman off to Edmonton.
Leafs fans love Zach Hyman. Like, love him. They'd rather trade Morgan Riley than Zach Hyman.
But as good as Zach Hyman is, and I mean, he is one of those guys that like can be a fan favorite, but you don't give that guy a 7-year deal.
I totally agree. It makes no sense.
And you for sure don't give him 8.
I don't think the dollar amount's that bad, but I just like, he's not going to be that good for that entire contract.
No. I don't know. You can attest to this just as much as anyone that Ken Holland loves to give mid-tier players way too long contracts.
Oh, yeah. I mean, have the details leaked in the contract yet? Has he got a no-move clause?
I mean, one can only assume.
Hey, Stevie's wearing a suit tonight. Good for him.
It is nice that he dressed up for the event.
The hoodie's on under.
He's going to be putting that on immediately after. So there you go, Nick. You got the pick is in, and it is
Simon Edvinsson, a defenseman. So I'm okay with that. He was projected to go again a little later. William Eklund's sliding, but not that off the board actually for Detroit.
No, and that Detroit fans are going to love a big Swedish defenseman. Yeah.
They also have that, God, his name's slipping my mind right now, and this is like blasphemy for a Red Wings fan. But they have that super scout who lives in Sweden.
Yeah.
Nick Lidstrom. That's who it is.
Just this little unknown guy, Nick Lidstrom. I think that might be his name. Yeah, heard of him. All right, couple questions. So I guess before we move on from the Red Wings, you happy with that?
I like it.
Yeah.
Also, I'm wearing my Trust the Believe in the Eyes Are Plan shirt, so I'm going to say I loved whatever Stevie did today.
Of course you would. All right, couple questions that we got. Chris asked, do you think that the 2 goalies will go in the top 12? So top 12, the 12th overall pick is the one traded to the Blue Jackets in the Seth Jones trade. So do you think that we'll get two goalies in that short of a span?
No, I don't. I think we'll get one. Goalies are hard to predict for me because I don't really know what the pipelines are like with other teams. I don't really know about goalie prospects that much. But this high in the draft, to even have one goalie go this high is pretty rare. So to see two go, now I'll tell you who I think is going to be the one who takes it is Columbus at 12.
I think that was if he's there, they're taking him. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised with, having 3 picks in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved up again to try to jump and try to take Wallstedt.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. They're the one team that I could see, shooting their shot at a goalie in the first round.
Yeah. So, they've definitely needed some goaltending. Merzlikins is obviously there and a good goalie, but they need something for the future, and good to take him now. I'll maybe take the lead on this next question. Do you think Landeskog will stay?
Oh, I'm happy to take the lead on it, Carl.
Okay. I'm happy to not let you.
Go for it.
I also would be happy to just skip the topic entirely.
I know you would.
This was, for Avalanche fans, just a real emotional roller coaster of a week. With the talk of Landeskog leaving, especially, I don't want him in St. Louis. That's not what we're here for. So Landeskog, from what I saw today, they're okay on dollar amounts. And they're literally, Landeskog wants 6 years. The team wants 4. That seems like something that you can get sorted out. I think.
Why don't they just meet in the middle of 5?
You know what? I would say the same thing. I honestly do think that it gets done and he stays. What's interesting about, I always have to take this with Joe Sakic in the back of my mind, because you think of Joe Sakic as like lifelong Colorado Avalanche, Stanley Cup champion, captain of the team. You don't usually think of him as Joe Sakic, the guy that signed an offer sheet with the New York Rangers. Like, as a player, he was willing to take those approaches, and, he was okay to go elsewhere to do these things. So when it comes to, let a guy, go see what you want out there. If it's better, go take it. We know what we're willing to pay you, and this is what it is. So I think if what Sakic's willing to give for him, he's not going to meet, I know that he will let him walk. And I will be sad, but much like you are trusting the Yzer plan, Sakic's done a pretty good job building this roster, so I'm going to let it go.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like the kind of thing to me that's going to get settled. It sounds like Joe Sakic's a pretty tough negotiator, but he always does what's best for the team. And every move he's made so far, I'd say, or most of them, has worked out for them. So I'm not too worried about it, Carl.
No, I was, I was not entirely surprised that he didn't go to Seattle. The teams that I saw, like, throughout the week, like, you saw Seattle rumored, and then you saw, well, he'd like to go to Tampa or Vegas. I'm like, there's no chance that they can fit. Like, Gabe Landeskog is not going to Tampa. Sure, I'm sure he'd love to go to the back-to-back defending champs. Absolutely. Everyone in the league would. However, not going to happen.
Well, why not? Tampa doesn't care if they're over the cap. They're literally putting it on T-shirts.
What injury does Gabe Landeskog have that we don't know about that he's going to be out for the season with when he signs in Tampa?
Who knows? Just throw a dart at the. I'm sure they have one of those, med school type charts of the human body in their office, and they just throw darts at it.
Yeah. Here's San Jose's up, and I know the pick is in, but this is another team that I would not be surprised if they took Wallstedt.
Oh, Carl, look at this background.
That's
best
a good
one so far, right?
I mean, the shark mouth is a great thing, anyways. To be able to use that, you're great. There's your William Ekman
William
pick.
Ekman. Yep.
So one pick.
Finally went.
San Jose had to have been thrilled that Detroit didn't take him, and now he's there, and a great pick for them. Slid a little bit, but with the amount of uncertainty in this draft this year, I don't take that as a criticism on him. I just think it's what teams were wanting.
Yeah, totally.
And because he's the first winger gone, right? Unless I'm missing one. So first winger of the year.
He is the first winger gone this year, yeah. Wow, good catch, Carl.
With that being the case, you take the best winger in the draft. You can't be sad about that. Best at his position.
It's a good pick.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we are going to, we might hang out in the room for a little bit. We're going to wrap up the podcast version of the show right here. Thanks to everyone who tuned in. And if, for those that are new to the show, thank you very much for coming and hanging out. You can find more of us on Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast with the number 4, thefourthlinepodcast.com. And wherever you find podcasts, you can head on over to Full Press Radio, Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever you're at. Thank you for tuning in. And if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review. We'll be back throughout the summer, as we always are. Nick?
This has been our live show. Thanks for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed it. We hope we didn't suck. Like the NHL draft, we were a mystery. Next time we'll try to get on Gary's green screen.
The Red Wings have made a trade. Nick, you're getting Wallstedt.
They traded up to get him, didn't they?
They did.
Stevie.
Oh.
They're moving from 23 to 15.
And if they don't take him, they have to, right?
Yeah, I think they have to.
Oh, what a moment.
Stevie.
How happy are you if that's the case?
This is very exciting.
I'm excited to be here with you for it.
So they're probably trading their 23rd overall.
Oh, for sure.
And probably a later pick as well.
Maybe I don't know. How much does 8 spots in the draft, in the middle of the first round, cost? Is that a second?
Jeez,
if it was 23rd and their second, would you be happy with that?
Well, they've got their second and the Rangers second. I'd be okay if it was the Rangers second.
Okay.
Because ours is going to be higher.
Yeah, that seems... Even if I wouldn't be surprised if it was next year's. There hasn't been many trades today that had, multiple picks from this year's draft. I think so many teams are uncertain about this,
yeah,
rounds 2 through 7, that they don't really want a part of it.
Yeah. It's true.
Great question, Chris, and the answer is Joe Sakic. That is the answer to this question.
No, it's not. Come on. It's Yzerman.
Yes, Yzerman did build a 2-time champion in Tampa.
Yeah.
But
that's correct.
I'm more what have you done from lately?
How many times champions did Joe Sakic build?
None yet. but we're getting there. Patience. I mean, we're going to bring back Landeskog. I mean, exactly. Look, Tampa won the President's Trophy, and then there you go. So that's
a lot of picks.
Rangers 3 pick, but like that's the second you wanted to give up, right?
Yeah, so that's the Rangers' second, and probably Ottawa's 5th, I would assume.
That seems great for me. Right? That seems fine.
I mean, they must really want whoever they're about to take.
Yeah. It has to be Wallstedt. There's no one else they'd be moving up for.
Yeah, I don't think so.
My favorite part is that, there's no way for me to like stop the recording. And so because we've waited this long, this gets to be in the show now.
This is all gonna be, you've been recording this whole time?
Yeah, but I'm gonna stop it when you sing the song, and then this is gonna go in at the end. So anyone who stays past the song gets to see Nick's reaction when the Red Wings take like someone that's not Wallstedt here.
No, they gotta take Wallstedt. Come on. Come on. On the plus side, I'll probably win my bet now, considering they just gave up 2 more picks.
That's true. So now they're down to 8 picks in the draft?
Yeah.
This is the bonus track. Exactly. It's not even like, it's the bonus track that happens after like a lengthy, time off. Who is the random Swedish defenseman that the Red Wings are going to pick here?
No. Come on.
Just going to pull up a mock draft real quick.
Come on, it's going to be the goalie. Oh, and they got 5 minutes on top of that. You know, especially virtually, this clock should be cut down to 3 minutes per pick.
Yeah.
5 minutes is just, like, they moved up because they knew they wanted to take somebody, and you're still giving them 5 minutes to make their pick?
No need for that.
Also, why are they taking more than 2 minutes to submit the pick?
Like, are we sure we want to do this? This is the guy? This is who we want here?
The trade's done.
Yeah. I think they're needing Gary to get the rib sauce off his face so that they can make the announcement. Well, there we go. Pick is in.
Here we go.
Oh, a lot of the waiting that we have is 1,000% just for TV so that the talking heads can talk.
Oh, yeah. Come on. Gary,
are you
what
just
are
matching
you
the refresh? I hear lots of clicking.
Yeah, I am. I'm just clicking on my Twitter because sometimes Twitter's faster.
Nick, I got bad news for you.
They picked a goalie, but it's not the one I wanted.
Not the one.
Sebastian Casa.
Oh. Are you happy though?
I'm happy they picked a goalie.
Okay.
Who's supposed to be good. I am. That's definitely one they needed. I'm surprised Wallsted's falling so far.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he fell to be the second goalie in the draft.
That is the surprise. I mean, that's the most surprising part. Like, Costa going at 15 is not surprising. But Wallsted's still sitting there?
Yeah. Maybe Edmonton will get him.
Glad that you got your goalie, though.
Yeah, me too.